Hello, my name's Anne Hawkins, and this is one of a series of interviews that I'm doing with small business owners who are making a positive impact on the world. And today I'm joined by David Brown. So thanks for joining me, David.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. It's thanks for inviting me and come and talk with you today.
The idea for this series came about because I noticed that big businesses are making what seems like a determined effort to make the world a much worse place than it needs to be. Simply for the purpose of putting more money in the pockets of people who are already extremely rich. And then I noticed that the small business owners that I work with, the people who are running independent businesses, who are autonomous, free-spirited, are making determined steps every day to try and make the world a better place through their businesses, through the choices that they make, and the impact that they have. And so I decided it would be a good idea to interview some of these people, and you're one of them. Would you like to start by telling us, however you want to start, about the way you run your business, the impact that you hope you're having on the world, and then we'll take it from there.
Yes, I'm very, very happy to do that. The thing that I'm really aware of is that, well, if I go in really deep, let's go in really deep right from the start, right? Which for me is around this idea that hurt people. And really my role, as far as I'm concerned, is to help people stop hurting so that they stop hurting themselves and they stop hurting other people and they stop hurting the planet. That's essentially like the essence really of what it is that I feel that I'm here to do. Um, and because I've been on my own journey of being that person who was hurt on the inside and done my fair share of hurting other people, not intentionally, but just by um, like a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding, a lack of realizing the impact that I was having on other people. I caused a lot of pain and heartache in the world. And now that I've done a lot of that healing work myself, I can see the impact that I had in the past, and I've done my best to um, ask for forgiveness for some of that stuff as best I've been able to. And then it's really been about moving forward with that and just trying to walk through the world being as kind and as generous and as gentle with people and myself as I possibly can be. And what I've noticed is that it has a phenomenal positive impact because um, I can be with people in their hurt and in their pain, and I can have it be okay that people experience that and have and then allowing them to have that experience means that they can forgive themselves and they can let go a lot of this stuff that they've been beating themselves over the head or over the back with for years and years and years of their lives and causing themselves more pain. So um when people forgive themselves, then they let go of a lot of this stuff and then they can start walking through the world being kind and being compassionate and being patient and generous with other people. So it feels like there's this positive ripple that I'm observing um, as a direct consequence of the work that I've done and then the conscious choices that I'm making to positively impact other people.
Okay, that's all very, very inspiring and quite easy to understand. Just a little question about how you do that. Is it conversations one to one? Is it working in a group? Are you writing? How does it take place?
So mostly I do it through conversation, one-on-one conversation, and I do some small group work. Um, and the way that I do the way that I do it is so when people are hurt and they're in pain themselves, physical pain, but also emotional pain, what tends to happen is that their nervous system is in what people colloquially refer to as fight or flight. Okay. So when people are in fight or flight, they're very much in protective mode. They're either going to withdraw and they're not going to be as communicative or as relational as perhaps they could be. And then the opposite of that is that people get quite aggressive. It's not necessarily any more relational, but the outward expression of that is perhaps more more aggressive, more assertive, and it doesn't really work very well. But these are the things that people do as a way of trying to get on in the world and protect themselves. But when I work with people and I have helped them to see what it is that they're doing and teach them and show them how to better manage their emotions, regulate their nervous system, teach them ways to be able to self-manage and calm themselves down so that they're not so reactive, then their nervous systems begin to calm down. And when their nervous systems calm down, all this wonderful stuff that is just very natural as part of who we are as human beings, we become more relational, become more compassionate, become kinder to ourselves and to others. Um, uh, we're much more creative. And so when people learn to really do that self-regulation and self-management in a skillful way, they're able to choose the path of good, choose the path of kindness, choose the path of compassion and generosity. And so I do that predominantly one-on-one. I do it in small groups, and as I know that you're aware, I have this uh, long-term goal of connecting 1 million people to this more compassionate, loving side of themselves. So I want to be able to teach that from bigger stages. And do that in much larger contexts.
Okay.
Mm.
That is that's quite the ambition. Is there a plan to connect these people to each other so that they can then do the sort of like Dunbar's number that each person's connected to 250 others, and then those 250 are connected? Do you have that as your ultimate goal as well?
Yeah, well, so I want to create a community of people. So the other thing that I'm really aware of, and I know you and I have spoken about this as well, that part of the challenge that we have as a humanity in our modern times is we have all of these systems in place, education systems, finance systems, healthcare systems, and so on, that are not necessarily fit for purpose anymore. That they're so large and they're so cumbersome and they're so self-interested in that they want to maintain and sustain themselves, um, that it actually makes it really, really difficult for there to be um, sustainable change in a way that is going to be good for the future that we want to create for ourselves as a humanity, as a society. So my idea is, yeah, let's bring these people together, maybe in sector specific pods or whatever, but also to cross pollinate and cross fertilize these pods as well, so that people come up with uh, strategies, plans, new systems, new businesses, new ideas that are going to be able to um, directly respond to the challenges that we're facing as a humanity as we move forward into the future. So this isn't something that, is going to be, uh, I'm probably not going to see this happen, but my vision is that that is ultimately what's going to happen so that we can be really creative and responsive to the challenges that we're going to be facing as a humanity in the next 100, 200, 300, 400 years.
Wow. Okay. When you say sector specific
Mm,
and that you're probably not going to be around for this,
mm.
you're obviously talking about more than a community. You're talking about almost a way of life, a different way of being altogether. So
Yeah.
let's explore the sector specific part first. What does that mean?
Okay. So in my imagination, I have it that as the numbers grow, of this community of what I'm referring to as sovereign leaders, but that community will begin to have people, say, who are in the education sector, or they're in the healthcare, or they're in finance, or they're in medicine, or whatever it is that that it might be. And so I imagine that those people are going to want to come together, and they might want to co-create new systems, new ways of doing things, new ways of viewing how to solve the challenges that that particular sector might have. And I'm not an expert on any of those sectors, so it's not going to be necessarily for me to come up with those ideas. But if you've got people that are well versed in managing themselves, not taking things personally, being open to um, discussion, perhaps criticism, perhaps feedback, people who are open to being creative, people who are willing to um, put aside their own self-interests for the benefit of a much, much larger interest. Yeah, that we're going to hopefully be able to create groups of people that will come up with new and innovative ideas about how to educate our children, how to educate adults, how to encourage adults to be really responsible and take ownership of their health and their well-being, rather than relying on a national health service that is frankly bowing under the weight of all the demands that it's facing. Um, and so my hope is that in all the different sectors that there might be, that within that million people or more, that there'll be groups that will be willing to come together. And then also that one sector might have some really amazing innovative idea that might actually be applied to a completely different sector. So by getting that cross-pollination, we can get some really creative ideas going that could be incredibly exciting.
It certainly is incredibly exciting. I hadn't heard you describe this before, so this is new to me too. And so I guess the next question is, if someone is inspired by what you're saying, and they want to get involved, is there a way to do that right now, or is this something that you're working on for the future?
Well, so the big goal is something for the future, and where I am right now is creating small events, small workshops that at the moment are encouraging people to cultivate that self-regulation and that self-management, and to get used to this idea of, yeah, like I see myself be really reactive in this situation, and I see myself being defensive, and I see myself taking things personally, and I see myself being aggressive, or withdrawing and pulling away in my conversations with people in whatever the context might be, and to be able to learn to um, um, work with their nervous system to stop that process from running away with them, so that in the moment they're going to be in a much stronger position to be able to go, okay, I'm going to stop this. That thing that someone said, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to take it personally. So, for example, I had someone the other day who was saying that they didn't want to work with me. And 5 years ago, I would have taken that so personally and made that all about me and what was wrong with me and all of that. And I know that that is not an uncommon thing in human interactions, but I've done enough work on myself, and it's always an ongoing process, but I've done enough work to be able to hear that this isn't about me, this is about what's going on for them. And so it allows me to be with them and to ask them questions and to help them work out what it is that's really going on for them.
Mm, mm,
And
yeah.
when we're able to help people do that, they one, they really appreciate it, but two, they have this understanding of, oh, right, that's really what's going on here for me.
Mm.
And then it allows them to be able to work with that rather than
Yeah.
just making all these assumptions about, I don't know, I can't afford it, or I'm not good enough, or all of the, these um, expressions that we have about ourselves, and we don't really ever take much time to look at them,
Mm.
to slow down long enough to look at them and really understand what it is that's going on for them.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it, Viktor Frankl, who first came up with it? Probably not first, but proposed this idea of the pause before reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So powerful.
Yeah, yeah,
One of the other things that you mentioned was that you're calling this sovereign leadership. Now, sovereign leadership has all kinds of negative connotations as well as the positive ones that you use. So, could you perhaps unpack that a little? We're not talking about sovereign leadership in the terms of someone being utterly selfish, which is kind of what's going on with the tech guys at the moment. Why they're making the world a worse place than it needs to be, because they believe that they are above the law,
yeah, yeah,
that they have some kind of sovereign right to determine their own future.
yeah, yeah.
So, could you explain the other aspect of that you work with?
Yeah, totally. Um, so yeah, I did some research around this idea of being sovereign or sovereignty, and a lot of people's feedback was, yeah, sovereign equals colonialism, imperialism, exploitation, slavery, and I was like, oh my God, like I hadn't even thought of that, as a thing that people would think about. Um, the reason I came up with this idea of sovereign leadership is because for decades I've been a fan of um, myths and legends and fairy tales. And one of the themes that I saw coming up again and again and again was this idea that if the health of the sovereign was poor, so if the sovereign had been injured, or if they experienced grief or heartache, or if there was a problem that they had going on in their lives but they weren't facing it, that would have an impact on the health of the sovereign, and that would then have an impact on the health of the realm. So the realm would usually experience poverty or famine, or there'd be some kind of curse on it or something like that. These are just fairy tales, right? This isn't real. This isn't real, right? But then in the story, the sovereign would go on a journey and the sovereign would heal themselves. And when the sovereign healed themselves, then suddenly the realm enjoyed prosperity and great fertility, and everyone was doing well. And so it really pointed to me this idea that there is this direct relationship to our inner health and our inner well-being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and the health and the vitality and the thriving and flourishing of our lives out in the world. Yeah. So
Mm.
so another way of putting that might be the kinder we are to ourselves, truly kind to ourselves, the kinder we are to other people, and people thrive under kindness. Yeah. People thrive under compassion. And of course, there'll always be those people that abuse it. But generally speaking, people thrive and blossom when you say a kind word to them, when you thank them for something. And I'm losing the thread of what it was that I was saying. But yeah, anyway, I'm back now. So for me, it seemed really clear that sovereign leadership was this journey that all of these sovereigns go on in these fairy tales, right? Which is to realize that there's undealt with stuff in here, in ourselves, that when we address it in a loving and compassionate way, we turn it all around and we heal ourselves, and then we thrive, and the people around us thrive, and the world around us thrives as a result of that. So to me, sovereign leadership was just like a no-brainer. Um, so actually I really welcome this idea that where people come back to me and go, yeah, but sovereigns, it's all about entitlement and privilege and all of those sorts of things. And of course, when you actually look at the ancient roots of sovereignty, it was all about um, being a servant leader. It
Ah,
wasn't about, yeah, it wasn't about, oh, my life is, it's all good for me. Thank you very much. I don't care about all of you, your my subjects. I don't care about them. No, the whole point of being a king or a queen was that you were in service to the people and you were in service to the realm. And there are some cultures, for example, um, historically, who had it set up that a king would rule for 7 years, and then he would be killed. So he knew when he put his hand up and said, "Yeah, yeah, I'll be king." Yeah, he knew that he was going to be sacrificing his life for the benefit of the realm. And I know that's a very extreme example, right? Obviously, right? But in our lives, it's the same. It's like the more we serve, the better we feel. Yeah, the more generous we are. It's much, much less. It's not about us, although we don't want to abuse ourselves, you know. So there's always that as well, that side of it. So we don't want to abuse ourselves, but it's about doing good for me and doing good for other people, not doing good for other people and I suffer, or I only do good for myself, but other people suffer as a result. It's, we all win.
yeah.
And if it's a win-win-win, then I think that's great leadership.
Mm,
And um and it's the sovereign's responsibility. Like, we are sovereign of our lives. So it's my responsibility to make my life work.
yeah.
Like, it's your responsibility to make your life work. And when our lives work, it is to the benefit of other people.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very different narrative to the one that most people think of when they think of the word sovereign. So I need to, part of my thing is to change that.
Okay. It's so changing people's thinking about the way about the meaning of sovereignty.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And the way you described it, it's not that big a shift. It's just that we've come to be to associate it with the negative aspect, haven't we? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So well, let's hope that we don't go too far into the 7 years and you're done. But but if people want to start getting involved with this movement that you're creating, that's what it sounds like, or a community, or to explore something in their own sector, as you described. What can they do? Do they contact you first, have a chat, set something up? How would that process work?
I am, so the thing that I run like consistently is a thing that I refer to as sovereign dialogue. So it's a 1 hour weekly session that gives people the opportunity to learn some of these tools to self-manage, um, and to, again, calm the nervous system down so that people can enjoy the guidance and the insight and wisdom of what I refer to as this sovereign leader within themselves. And the reason that I do it as a regular thing, as a practice, is because I've really benefited from it myself. And I think it's something that needs to be an ongoing process where
Mm,
we're looking inwards to ourselves for our own guidance, because so often we're kind of trained often to look outside ourselves for the answers, which is partly why these big businesses do as well as they do, because we're kind of trained to look to them for the answers to all our problems. And so if we can learn to look within ourselves for the answers, we may not know all the answers, but we certainly might get to a point where, okay, I don't know how to do that, but I know someone who does know how to do that, or I need to find someone who knows how to do that. So it's not about being kind of like all wise and all knowing, but it is about looking to yourself first for the answers and the guidance and the direction to go that is going to be, really aligned to who you are authentically. So that's why this sovereign dialogue thing for me is like the entry point. But at any point, I'm really open to having conversations with people about, okay, well, how can we make this happen? And I, my expectation is that, over time, um, I'll develop these relationships with people and I can support them in making those changes that they're looking to make, but by doing it through supporting them in accessing that wisdom within themselves.
Okay. So what I'm thinking now is, and I'm going back to your past, if you like, because I know the way you work is very much with the mind-body connection, and your past in martial arts informed a lot of your earlier thinking, and I'm guessing it carries on as it is. So now I'm wondering, do people have to become a fourth Dan or a black belt or a something, moving through moving through stages before they attain a position of being able to hold their own community?
No, 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 no. So one of the definitions that we have of sovereign leadership um, is a sovereign leadership is a commitment to an ever deepening relationship with self. Yeah, that inevitably leads to the stewardship of self and others and the world. So there is no there is no hierarchy to this, but there is this sense of, okay, well, how aware are you? How deep is this relationship that you have with yourself? And so that's the journey that all of us are on, whether we know it or not, in a way. We're all on that journey. And how deep we go into that, how um, deeply we are aware of our thoughts and our feelings and our beliefs and our spiritual well-being and our emotional well-being, and all of these things, this kind of complex matrix that makes up human beings. The more we are aware of that, then the better able we are to manage and regulate ourselves when it comes to being in challenging situations that leadership demands from us.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, um,
Oh, sorry. And then also the thing about martial arts. Yeah, you don't need to do martial arts. That was just my background. And um, it's really about developing that sensitivity of yourself to yourself. That's really
yeah,
what it comes
yeah,
down to.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
one of the reasons I brought that in is because working with small business owners, their own health and well-being often comes up because it's all too easy to ignore that, to keep pushing forward, to keep this sense of I must always be working. And so one of the things that, as you know, in our community we talk about all the time is self-care.
yeah,
And that has to be the basis of everything because, unless we care for ourselves and those we care about, what's the point of anything?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
But also, people often use this drive for more success or more work or whatever the next thing might be. They're using it as a way, often using it as a way of kind of like self-medication. It's like they're using it as a way of steering away from looking at stuff that might feel uncomfortable. And if there's stuff that feels uncomfortable, then again, in my idea of sovereign leadership, is that's the direction that you want to move in, not to make your life unpleasant, but actually quite the opposite. If you look at it and you really see it for what it is, then you become free of it. And then it no longer drives your behavior. And then you're at choice. And if you are at choice, then you have freedom to be to be the person that you want to be and create the business that you want to create and have the impact on the world that you want to have.
Okay. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you so much for all of that. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way to do that? What would you
Uh,
prefer?
So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. and by email.
Okay, I'll put those details in the notes that we create from the show.
Great.
So, any last thoughts, words? That was. Although I know a lot about the work you're doing, that really was inspirational. It was fantastic, David.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's a big vision, and I can't remember John Alexander's expression, but was it the answer to everything is all of us?
So to fixing everything is all of
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yes.
The answer to fixing everything is all of us. And I'm a firm, 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 firm believer of that.
Mm.
But the part of us that wants to be doing the fixing is this what I would refer to as this sovereign part of ourselves.
Mm.
We can fix things um, through our habitual behavior of, say, um, a lack mindset or thinking that we're not enough or that I've got to do more or whatever. We can do that, but all that does is just perpetuate more and more and more of the problems that we currently have.
Yeah.
So we need to learn to be able to slow down, step back, and realize that that's what's been driving us, and choose a different path
Yeah.
uh,
And
from.
I think one of the really important things about what you've just said is the key to fixing everything is all of us, and not to get into the safety complex.
Yes.
I've had that conversation with too many people who believe because they're coming from a position of privilege, it's their job to save everybody else, and that just doesn't work.
No, 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 exactly. Yeah, yeah. We got to do it together. And
Mm,
one of the qualities of a great sovereign, of course, is diplomacy and
mm,
building relationships and building networks of people from other kingdoms, other realms, that are going
mm.
to support in the flourishing of all of us. So
Yeah,
it's no different. It's no
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Do it together.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for all of that.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
I'm sure we'll come back and have lots more conversations about it all. But it's just so good to know that there are people like you and others who are just doing the opposite of what many people think is the inevitable um, destruction of the world, or making the world much worse than it needs to be. And that together we can make it a better place. So
Mm.
thank you again.
And thank you, Anne, for doing your part in all of that.
It's a great pleasure.